Hello everyone, welcome to Urbanscape Bangalore, and in this episode we will be looking at repotting this wonderful sandpaper wine, or the Petrea Volubilis. So some of you might remember that I had actually taken a cutting of this sandpaper wine, or the Petrea Volubilis, and I had propagated the plant with the help of a stem cutting. So the stem cutting was actually given by a wonderful gardener of one of my workspaces last year, and look at how wonderfully that particular stem cutting has grown. So I had actually used around 4 stem cuttings, or 3 maybe, but only one kind of successfully grew, and I'm really proud of this. And it almost feels like you have become a very proud father of a beautiful plant, a very exotic plant, that is the Petrea volubilis. It gives out these beautiful whitish to blue colored plumes of flowers, and I'm waiting with bated breath to finally witness this plant give out those beautiful flowers that make this plant very exotic. So, when do you finally realize that this plant really needs repotting? Is when the size of the plant is too big for the container. Another thing that I witnessed was it was giving out new shoots at the tip of this plant, and that kind of just fell off and it became dry, etc. So if you see signs of stress on the plant and it is in a very tiny container, that means it definitely needs some repotting. So I have used another container here with a drainage hole, and I'm using a lot of these drainage materials to facilitate drainage. And also ensure to see that your container that you're using should be one size or two size bigger than the existing container. So now let us talk about the growing conditions of this plant. So this plant is a native of Central America, Mexico, etc. It can grow up to 12 feet high. It is a climber or a twining plant which can grow on a support. So if you have an esplanade, or you have a trellis, or you have any kind of a pergola, then this plant is really ideal for you. So this plant is also used as a substitute for the wisteria, which is a little more vigorous. It kind of takes over the entire structure, etc. But this sandpaper wine is a little more tender than the wisteria. So let us talk about the soil type that you need to use. The potting medium that I'm using here is 50% sand, 40% garden soil, and 10% compost. I will be adding the compost at the end. Now we need to gently take the plant out of this existing container, and we need to make sure that we do not cause any harm to the plant, at the same time ensuring that the container also does not break, because this container is a terracotta container, and I do not want to lose any terracotta containers. I really love them. So what you need to do is kind of tenderize the soil by watering it the day before you do this repotting. And then what you can do is you can take a knife or a sharp object and dig the soil that is there, and then slowly tap the bottom surface and the sides of the terracotta pot, and the plant will come out easily without destroying the terracotta pot. Now, after you take off the plant from the container, you must make sure and you must see whether the plant is root bound. If it is root bound, then you need to tease the roots. If it is not, then you can place the plant in the new container as is. So my plant is not root bound, so I will be placing the plant in the center of the container, and I will also check the level between the top layer of the soil and the rim of the container. This is very important because while watering, the water needs to percolate through the roots of the plant. Hence, it is very important to maintain a level lower than that of the brim of the container so that the water percolates freely. So if this level is higher than desirable, then what you need to do is you need to take off the excess soil or the potting medium that is there underneath, and then place the plant. So now let us talk about the sunlight requirements of this plant. This plant will definitely do well in full sun, and it will give out more blooms if placed under full sun. However, if you keep this in a southwest facing direction where it gets very good afternoon sunlight, then this place or this position will be ideal for this plant as well. So it can tolerate both part shade conditions and full sun conditions, but definitely not shady conditions. So another aspect of this plant is fertilizing. So I would recommend that you fertilize this probably 3 times a month with a lot of compost, or you can just add organic matter in the container, and that would in turn decompose and enrich the soil with all the nutrients that the plant really needs. You can alternatively add goat dung or cow dung to enrich the nitrogen content of the soil. So now let us talk about the watering aspect. The watering must be consistent watering. It definitely does not like very drought like conditions. So well draining soil would definitely facilitate that much needed drainage, but you need to consistently water this plant for a better performance. But it could tolerate some amounts of dry spell. So this plant is alternatively called the bluebird vine, the queen's wreath, and the sandpaper vine. It is called the sandpaper vine primarily because of the texture of the leaves, which are very rough and almost resemble that of a sandpaper. So the blue flowers of this plant that are formed in clusters are very delicate, and the best part of this plant is that as the flowers age, the color of the flowers would change from a dark purple to a little bit of a white shade. So the flowers of this plant are definitely not fragrant, and this is a seasonal blooming plant, and it blooms especially during the summer months and early spring. So I just need to water this plant, water it until you see water dripping out of the drainage hole, and then you can probably place this in the position that it desires and watch it grow effervescently as time passes by. Thank you for watching Urbanscape Bangalore, and if you like this video, then please do not forget to subscribe, like and share. Until we meet again, goodbye.